Hi, I'm Mark from the Family Woodworker Channel. In this video, I want to share some video tips and hacks that smaller channel content creators can use to create unique camera motion and more visual interest in your videos without having an extra person behind the camera and without spending tons of cash. It's easy to create some simple camera rigs and motorized videography options to spice up the look and feel of your videos, especially if you're recording your own content while working on your crafts and projects. With some basic woodworking and electrical skills, or leaning on a friend for help, you can do this. Before jumping into the motorized rolling camera hacks, let's start with the easy tricks first. Sometimes it's mind-numbing watching 20 minutes of a video shot entirely from a single camera position. This doesn't mean that you have to own multiple cameras to solve that problem, but changing the positions of the camera, the focus of the foreground, and the angle of the shot adds visual variety that keeps the viewer engaged. Sometimes a close-up at the tabletop level mixed with a wide or overhead shot does the trick, and these two rigs can help with that. The first is just a piece of wood with a hole drilled in to accept a 1/4 inch by 20 thread per inch bolt. That particular type of bolt matches most all tripod attachment points and camera mounts. Adding a cheap cell phone clamp mount to that wood block means that you don't need another camera or even a tripod to be able to move your camera angle around. The small wood block fits on small shelves and in tight spaces where a tripod just won't go. If you add on this little swivel attachment, you'll get even more flexibility on camera angles, especially during close-up shots. The second rig is an inexpensive selfie stick hot glued into another flat block of scrap wood. Simple solutions like this are amazing, really, when you can get a fantastic overhead shot like this, or to be able to adjust the height of your phone or camera to get a close-up to a critical piece of your project. This same rig sitting on a plant stand gets me a really close-up shot on my drill press. That's another spot on my shop floor where a tripod simply won't fit. The next hack provides for more options in your overhead and close-up camera shots. This particular setup requires the ability to mount something to the ceiling, so it might not work for everybody. But if you're in a workshop or a space dedicated to your craft, a ceiling mount rotating camera boom is an awesome and flexible shooting option. Since most of my finish work is done on my center work table, I've installed a wood mounting block on the ceiling above the middle of my table. I also have an elaborate set of rollerblade bearings mounted to a straight piece of pine that can rotate around the table, but it's much easier to head to Amazon and mount the wooden boom to the ceiling plate with a simple rotating bracket like this one. That's a lot easier than my original design, and it's only a few bucks. With a handlebar extension bracket for my GoPro, I can position the camera all around the project, giving me a 360-degree overhead view of whatever project I'm working on. Finally, I've added another drop-down piece of wood, simply clamped up to my rotating boom and extending down towards the work surface. With a couple of additional bolt mount points at different positions and adjusting the drop-down bracket forward and back to the pivot point, I can get even closer to the shot that I'm looking for. Now, let's motorize our camera and get some real motion added to our videos. Now, I'm not talking about buying expensive camera dolly systems here. They can run hundreds of dollars, and they seem to be limited to only a couple of feet of travel. That, and you're still going to need another person to operate the camera and handle the movement. I've built a pretty simple contraption out of scrap plywood, an $11 microwave turntable motor, a simple light switch, and a round block to act as a winding spool. Mounting the motor to an upright piece of plywood attached to a base, a standard 120-volt power cord feeds the light switch and then the motor. I've drilled a hole into the longer, thin block of wood and hot glued it up to the light switch, extending that on-off toggle movement. And I've attached the motor with a shaft adapter to a rounded block of wood that will wind up a long piece of string. It is a relatively simple design, but if you're uncomfortable with the wood construction or the electrical connections, you can ask friends or family for help if needed to build your own version. This is going to be the heart of our next two videography hacks. Let's make a rolling dolly. I'm going to start making this dolly from a cheap secondhand skateboard. I've recycled these skateboard wheels and mounted them to another block of scrap wood, making sure the wheels are in alignment and that the dolly rolls straight. I added a wider piece of plywood on top to serve as a base for the camera. Underneath the dolly, I've added an eye hook to attach a pulling string. At the front of the dolly, I also added another piece of wood that'll serve as a pushing mechanism to turn the motor's light switch off. All you really need then is a long flat table, or in my case, a skinny length of plywood to serve as my dolly track. It adds some great movement across your work area or can zoom in on a piece of work. The speed of the travel is dictated by the RPM of the motor and the diameter of the wind-up spool. And when the dolly hits the end of the track, it'll hit the extended switch and the motor shuts down. Depending on the camera position in the shop, I leave enough string to allow the motor to be positioned and clamped down pretty much anywhere I need. It's a great little solution to a boring single-shot video position. Now that we have a motorized string pulling solution, we can incorporate that with our overhead rotating camera boom. This is my favorite shot for final steps on a project because I can shoot a full view of my final work from all angles. The motor gets set up off camera and the pull string attaches to the boom, which connects through additional guidance hooks on the ceiling. The motor will then slowly pull the boom, rotating it around the center table. Attaching the pull string to different positions on the boom will produce different travel speeds, the slowest when the string is attached at the end of the boom. That drop-down bar comes in handy again here too, if you want that rotational camera angle to be closer to the table. And as for a safety shutoff feature using the boom, I added a simple length of flexible wire to the end of the string. It's firm enough to pull the boom with the off-camera motor, but it will bend itself free when the boom reaches the end of travel. I'm sure there are other camera effects you can try by using these tools and hacks in your own workspace, but I wanted to share how these homemade solutions have helped me in my own video production. And best of all, it was far cheaper than purchasing ready-made and limited feature dolly systems. Especially if you're a solo content creator without a cameraman to help, these little tricks will help to level up the quality of your content. I hope that you found this video interesting and helpful. We don't ask for donations or memberships on our channel, so your thumbs up, a subscription, and even a comment help us in the new world of YouTube. Thanks for stopping by and take care.